All right. Hello and welcome to episode 1 of Healing Happens with Elsa Karinke. I'm your host, Elsa, and we are back with the first full, ready to go episode of the Healing Happens podcast. If you want a little more of an introduction to Healing Happens or just a little more information about what we'll be doing around here, what's up with this, go check out episode 0. Allow me to introduce myself. But my thought for the first few episodes of this podcast is I would like to define some terms as I understand them. So I've been steeped in the healing space for quite a while now. I've been on my own healing journey for solidly 10 years, but even for about 5 years before that. So pretty much half my life. I'll be 32 this year and I'm 15, 16, 17 years into this journey. And then I've been working in this space for nearly 5 years. I'm reminiscing recently on my first ever yoga teacher training, my first ever training, period. My yin yoga training, which I did in March of 2018. So baby's all grown up, got 5 years of experience working in this space, and I love this world. It's given me my life back. It's given me ways to take responsibility for my life and really claim my role as creator and pilot of this ship that I'm driving. But in the era of social media healing culture, there are a lot of terms that get thrown around so much that they've essentially lost their meaning entirely. And that makes me incredibly sad. And the reason why that makes me so sad is that these words have deep, rich meaning. These words are powerful. Somatic healing and somatic therapeutic modalities have literally saved my life. They have made me the woman that I am today. And I have dedicated my life to the study and the share of these practices, and they have tremendous meaning for me. But even I am getting to the point where, I scroll through Instagram or I look on TikTok and I'm just like, oh my God, if I hear the words somatic or healing or nervous system or regulation ever again, I'm literally going to scream. And for me to get to a point like that, when this really is my whole world, tells me that people who aren't passionate and excited about these topics are probably rolling their eyes even bigger than I am. So I wanted to start off with a few episodes of really defining what these terms mean to me, So everyone can have their own definitions. Everyone can have their own reasons for listening to this podcast, for being on their own healing journey, for coming into this space. And I'm not at all trying to say that my definitions of these words are the end all be all. I will say when it comes to words like, this is a phrase, a term, not a word, but when it comes to terms like nervous system regulation, I do have years of extensive training and study of the nervous system. So when I define terms like that, I will be spitting facts that are indisputable. You can read about it in a textbook. You can experience it in your own body. I'll have the scientific backing and the embodied experience. But when it comes to a word like healing, there can be a variety of definitions of that word, and it can mean different things to different people. And I will say I had a little bit of a crisis when I was going through the actual final stages of branding and, the marketing stuff for this podcast, because I came up with the name Healing Happens a long time ago. it's been over a year of me having the idea for this podcast, and I've been, going through the whole government patent trademark situation, which, we've all been to the DMV. We know that everything that the government runs is highly inefficient. So it's taken a while for me to, trademark it and get all that together and get the branding together. And in this last year of, between the time that I had the idea and the time that it actually, came forth into the world, I've almost had this experience where I hate the name. I'm like, ooh, I'm like, healing happens. Ew, like I'm just gonna be perceived as one of those Instagram healing influencers. Like, oh, this word has no meaning. I hate it. And I was talking to one of my good friends about this, and she's like, well, maybe you get to reclaim the word. You get to define what it means to you and really, set that tone with your audience. And so that is priority number one. So when I say healing happens, what do I mean? And I want to say that I chose healing happens because I view healing as, in a lot of ways, equal parts active and equal parts passive. And so I thought that healing happens really kind of captured that duality, that dual nature of healing. And what I mean by that is, there's the old saying, like, time heals all wounds. Well, that's not true. We'll just start with that. Time simply passes. And quite frankly, if you are not actively doing healing work to address, past traumas, resentments, grievances, all these kinds of things, typically things actually get worse over time because the maladaptive patterns that you have adopted to cope with trauma and, to walk through the world with all of your wounds, and try to get by, those maladaptive coping mechanisms actually become stronger over time if we're not working to decondition and heal and unravel and unwind them. So that's number one. So healing does not simply happen by waiting for someone to, sprinkle magic fairy dust on you and you're healed. You have to take an active role in it. However, healing also does not happen through force. So our bodies are these incredible self-healing mechanisms. Our bodies have innate intelligence. Our bodies are built for survival. And then we have this divine aspect of our being, our soul that lives within us. And our souls came into this body at this particular time in this incarnation to learn very specific lessons. And our soul will use the body to make sure that those lessons get learned. And we will create the conditions for that learning to happen. Because we are truly masters of our own destiny. So we have this body that's built to survive. We have this soul that came in to learn very specific lessons. And so we have this amazing machine that we are at the wheel of, essentially. And so we get to partner with our body. We get to partner with our soul in the healing process, which is so, so, so beautiful. And so the way that I see it is our active role in participating in our healing is to create the conditions for our body and our soul to heal itself. So our active role is to create the conditions for our body and our soul to heal itself. That is so profoundly beautiful to me. It gives me chills and goosebumps every time. The healing capacity of the body never ceases to amaze me. And I'm just constantly in awe of what we are capable of when we give ourselves the time, the space, and the presence to go all the way in and meet ourselves in those places that need to be healed. So, thus we have this active and passive. We have to go at our body's pace. So, trauma is often experiences that we've had that were too much, too fast. Things happen to us, our nervous system, our physical body did not have the capacity to metabolize or process what happened to us in the moment. And so that experience gets stored as trauma. And so if we're traumatized by too much, too fast, how can we expect to heal through force? Because force in and of itself is too much, too fast. And so we have to show up. You know, you're not going to become a better yogi by sitting on the couch and watching TV. You have to get on the mat, you know? You're not going to expand your lung capacity if you never do breath work or, you know, practice holding your breath. You have to show up to the practice. You have to get on the mat. And so what that looks like for healing is, you know, whatever healing modalities you have chosen, you have to show up to them. But when you do show up, we have to release the mind's expectations of the timeline, you know, how it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, because our body releases trauma, stuck energy when it is ready and not a moment before. We stop engaging in maladaptive patterns once those patterns have run their course and not a moment before. So obviously the wounds won't be healed, the patterns won't run their course if we're not addressing them at all, if we're not bringing consciousness to them, if we're not meeting them from a space of love and presence and tenderness and holding. But they're also not going to be healed from force and willing them to be healed, released, processed. That's not how it works either. So it's this twofold. It's showing up to the mat and having patience that the healing will happen in its own time. And relinquishing control and surrendering to the process and trusting the intelligence of our body and soul. We live in a society that does not, hold in high regard the intelligence of the body and the soul. We live in a hyper-masculine world that is all about pushing and forcing and glorifying the mind. But we are a body-mind being. They are intricately connected. But when it comes to actually healing trauma, that is not an intellectual process. Trauma does not live in the intellectual mind, which is the home of verbal processing and words. So we have to go into the body. That is the only way. There has never been a time in our lives when our bodies have not shown up for us. And this actually makes me really emotional because so often we blame our bodies, we shame our bodies, we express hatred towards our bodies, we get frustrated that our bodies are not doing things on our timeline. But has your body ever gotten frustrated with you? Has your body ever said, I'm actually just not going to carry you through this experience? The answer to that is no. Even if you had an experience of freeze or collapse, which we'll talk about on later episodes, and you feel like your body has failed you, if you have survived and you've made it this far, your body has a 100% success rate of carrying you through every experience in your life, because the body is built for survival. This episode has actually gone in a very different direction than I intended it to, but that's the whole point of this, is I'm really coming on here with just kind of stream of consciousness. But one thing that I do want to make incredibly clear at the beginning of this journey with all of you in this podcast format is, I do not believe that any person is born broken. I believe that you are born perfect, whole, and complete. And that is your true nature. That is your original condition. And I'll never forget when I was early on in recovery, I love looking up words and really finding the meaning of words. It's the triple Gemini in me, I'm not gonna lie. Because I think it's really powerful to really sit and steep in the felt experience of what words mean. And in the second step, in the 12 steps, it says, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And the word that I was taught to focus on in that step is the word restore. And restore means to return something to a previous condition. Meaning that if we are restoring ourselves to our original condition, which is sanity, peace, balance, wholeness, we had to have been that way to begin with. So in order to restore something, that condition had to exist at some point on the timeline of our lives. And so I believe that we are born in perfect wholeness, and it is the experiences of our lives from the moment of conception. Our experiences in utero really impact us. If our mother is stressed, that cortisol is steeped into us in the womb. We are taking in sensory information from our environment in the womb, from our birth experience, and then from every single moment of our lives early on. And particularly that first 7 years of life is crucial when it comes to programming our subconscious. And much of our wounding occurs in that time, particularly in those first 3 years, which is mainly pre-verbal, which is why these things are stored in the body. If something happened to you at a time when you couldn't even talk, you're never going to have words for that experience, but you are going to have a felt sense of what that experience was like in your body. And so that's where we have to go. That is the starting point for healing. And so I believe that healing is a restoration. Healing is a remembrance of our true nature, and it is a return to our wholeness. And I believe that as we walk this healing path, we love ourselves back into wholeness. And so it is our job, it is our responsibility, it is our business to show up to the mat, to show up to our healing practices, whatever those may be for us. And then we surrender the timeline, we surrender the result, and we trust that our body and our soul are going to do the work on their own time, as long as we keep showing up and creating the conditions for healing. We create the conditions for healing, and healing happens, active and passive. So that is what healing means to me. It's a return to wholeness. It's a return to our true nature. It's a remembrance. It's a restoration. It's remembering that we're not broken, and there's never been a moment in our lives where we have been. We may have felt broken, but we weren't. And so that is the first episode of Healing Happens. That is what healing means to me. I'm excited to reclaim a few more words that get thrown around out there willy-nilly all the time, and have largely lost their meaning. But these are deep, meaningful concepts that I really want to demystify and engage in a discussion about. So thank you for tuning in. Please, if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like this video, share it with anybody who you feel may be interested. And if you're watching or listening on your favorite podcasting platform, give this show a rating, share it with your friends. Let's spread this message, let's grow this community, and let's have a beautiful discussion. Also, if you prefer the written word, I do have a blog on Substack, also called Healing Happens with Elsa Karinke, which I'll drop in the show notes. So I'm sending you all lots of love, and I'm excited to be back here with you for episode 2. Mwah.